Oh, there's two of us.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
no, that's okay.
I'll pick on you first.
That's right. They wanted the left side to be the old side.
No shit. I feel old now. Usually when I recognize the one first for our presentation and then
You want it, Danny?
Turn 7.
What?
Oh, yes, it was your birthday. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
His birthday was on May 8th.
Really?
Right before he was. Yeah, we went, we did the top of the guys, like, single guys did, week before.
We enjoyed it. Relax, you know.
All right, Mayor, I have 6 o'clock.
All right, everyone, it is 6 o'clock. It's nice to have some new faces in the audience tonight. I'm going to go ahead and get started with our work session. I'm going to call the meeting to order. It is 6 o'clock. We're going to start with roll call. Councilmember Tomerlin.
Here.
Councilmember Aguilar.
Here.
Councilmember Byrd. Here. Vice Mayor Alonso.
Here.
And I am present. Please let the record know that Councilmember Lant and Councilmember Navarrete are excused tonight due to some extensive travel. If everyone would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. This is a very exciting work session and something that's kind of taken many years to get here. As you all know, the town will be purchasing 546 acres of land that expounds upon our economic and development and housing. But we have to have a good plan for that. This has been something we've been working on for a very long time. What is our economic development strategy? So we're going to have quite an extensive hour-long presentation. And first up tonight is our trusted senior advisor for economic development, Ioana Morfesis, and we're very fortunate to have her. And then she'll be followed by Danny Port and the team from Kimley Horn on all the work that we've been collectively working on to start narrowing down some choices and decisions. So Ioana, I'm going to turn the floor over to you. Is she frozen? Ioana, can you hear us?
This may be some operator error on my part, sorry. We were muted. Can you hear us now, Ioana?
Yes,
Ioana,
I
can you
can.
hear us?
I can hear you talk, but not someone else just spoke.
Yeah, we're going to have a hard time. You're dealing on a small laptop, so you may not be able to hear it unless I repeat it. So
Okay.
we can, I can change that over once we're done with your presentation, so you maybe can hear better.
And Ioana, we were just introducing you and explaining that you have been working with the town now for well over 10 years, or really through Rebuild Superior, and you're going to kind of kick off the presentation that we have and how important the decisions that we have in the next few months, over the next year, is going to be very important to the future of Superior. So I'm going to turn the floor over to you.
Thank you very much, Mayor, and thank you very much all of the Superior Town Council members and Todd too. I appreciate the opportunity. It's been a privilege and honor to work with Superior and to witness the phenomenal transformation of the community in just a decade. What is before you tonight in terms of this work session presentation by Elliott D. Pollock and Company and Kimley Horn is the probably the basis for which the town council will be asked, not tonight, but will be asked to make the most important decision that any elected body and the town's history will make, because what we are calling the Superior Innovation Gateway District is the only land upon which the town will be able to navigate, engineer, and in part influence how the town's economy can become more diverse, far more resilient, less dependent on the extraction industry, and help to provide the economic underpinnings for economic stability for at least the next 2 generations, if not more. So in my mind, this will be ultimately, when the town council does make its decision, it will be the most important decision that's been made in the last 50 years and for the next 50. Having said that, this evening you have 2 premier consulting organizations who have worked together to create do an analysis, a market study, projections, and highest and best use, 3 alternatives that they will be presenting tonight for the land exchange land that the town will be receiving. And Elliott Pollock Company is extremely well established. They are the gold standard for economic and fiscal analyses in our state. Kimley Horn is national in scope. They've already worked with the town on our Superior Municipal Airport plan. They work together, and they are here this evening. Danny Court, who is a principal and senior economist from Elliott Pollock Company, and Christopher Hacker. I can't see, so I don't know if Jenny Watts is participating in person tonight or not, from Kimley Horn, who have done extraordinary work. They have brought a lot of authentic emotionality to this project, because they know how absolutely critical it is for Superior to get this right. And finally, before we turn it over to the presentation, Mayor and Council members, I want to publicly acknowledge the fact and thank Resolution Coppermine, which paid for this study at my request, essentially. I worked as senior advisor, economic development advisor, to the town under the aegis of Greenville Superior. I want to thank Manny Guzman for all his support. We identified important aspects of what we will need for economic development and economic vitality. And Resolution did fund this study. It's not a study. They funded this plan. They contracted with Elliott Pollock Company, who subcontracted with Kimley Horn, who have expertise in land use planning, but also airports. So I want to thank them, but also let the mayor and council know that moving forward, plans are great, but they cannot sit on a shelf. We are going to need significantly more funding from Resolution Coppermine to be able to move from plan into reality and move the development of this very precious site, more precious than gold, into becoming a center of high quality jobs and companies that generate revenues for the town's coffers, but more importantly, that create economic and job opportunities for the residents who are here today and those who will come tomorrow. So thank you very much, truly appreciate it. Danny, I'm going to turn it over to you and Chris.
Thank you, Ioana. We appreciate you very much. I'm going to turn the floor over to Danny. You guys would introduce yourselves, and we're excited to hear your presentation.
Thank you so much. I'm Danny Court. Like Ioana said, I'm a principal and a senior economist at Elliott Pollock Company. We've been working on numerous projects with Town of Superior and with Resolution Copper. I think my first assignment with Resolution Copper was 2008, and I've been with Elliott Pollock Company since then, and have, we've maintained a great relationship there. This is a really exciting project. I'm here with Chris Hacker from Kimley Horn, our engineering consultant, and We're going to just talk about the research that has been done to date, both airport-based research, the research on current infrastructure, the topography and land constraints, as well as the market analysis, which my firm undertook as far as what's the market opportunity for employment for different types of commercial employment, development, industrial, flex industrial, retail, other types of commercial. So I'm going to turn it over to Chris right now. He's going to go through some of the steps that Kimley Horn has taken on the airport and the land research, and then we'll go kind of back and forth. I'll talk about the market research on employment, commercial, and then we'll come back to those land use alternatives. So, which will culminate, hopefully everyone can see it, and we can share this presentation as well to kind of zoom in. There's a lot going on in these maps, but we'll follow along, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask as we go along. Oh, I think there's some airports that can go on here. This is your.
So, Danny, thank you very much. As I said, we're very excited to be here, and when we first were approached by the town and by T. Pollock, we jumped right in, and looking at the airport, the master plan, it was clear that we wanted to do some drill down information and get some additional plans in place. And so one of the first things that we did was take a look at some industry research, and we looked at the Garland Mills Kaywood study that took a look at small town airports and economic impacts, and then we also took a look at the Airport Cooperative Research Program, report number 47, and that looked at the leasing policies, some best practices for developing an airport, and then we also wanted to do some industry research. We wanted to do some benchmarking, looking at peer airports, and one of the first things that we did was look at airports across the U.S. Similar to Superior, and so we looked at Fabens Airport in Texas, Morgan County Airport in Utah, Marina Municipal Airport in California, along with Chehalis up in Washington, and then Cable Airport in Ontario, California. And what we saw was airports are clear economic drivers for our community. If you invest right, if you develop them correctly, they can be long-term economic engines. The other thing that we saw was, based upon some of the benchmarking, we saw that it was clear that you have to have strategic land development. You just can't, you have to have a plan in place, because without a plan, the airport's not going to develop properly, and it's not going to be a long-term economic engine. From those peer airports, we definitely saw precedents over, of those 5 to 6 airports, we found one that was very, very similar to Superior. And the alternatives that we developed and are going to present later tonight are based upon all of this research, benchmarking for your consideration.
Sorry, I clicked the button. Go ahead.
Danny?
I'm gonna click another button, get E1 out of your way so you can see your slides. Okay, there you go.
So as the mayor explained, we have over 500 acres. We'll show you the net developable acres in there. We have an airport, an airstrip. We have areas that are most likely to be preserved for aeronautical uses, but we have a lot of available land north and south of the 60 that can be developed for non-aeronautical uses, for that diversification of the economy that Ioana talked about, trying to attract both commercial and employment elements, development that's non-mine related, that have broad industry reach. And so this research that we undertook was an employment and commercial market analysis, 5 kind of distinct classes here. The flex industrial category, which is the smaller scale, a lot of businesses throughout Greater Phoenix are in flex industrial. A lot of small businesses are in flex industrial, services, construction contractors, wholesalers, small transportation, lots of different industries in there, and it's a smaller scale. We also looked at the mid and shallow bay, so that's kind of stepping up in terms of building size. Basically 20 to 100,000 square foot type buildings, also high potential. This is our largest, like in the terms of larger tiers, this category also has really good fit with the developable land in the airport areas. We also took a look at mid-box and big box. This is a lot of the speculative development that you've seen in the Phoenix area happening. Very large buildings, probably not a good fit, but we did look at the market there, and we'll show you an overview of that. There's also this category of industrial outdoor storage. So graveled or paved, fenced-in lots that are used for storage of heavy machinery or vehicles or things like that. And then the retail demand. So commercial is a high priority for the town in attracting more commercial development. So we've created a retail demand model, and we'll walk through the steps of if we can get some new residential development, if this new employment comes in with the startup of the mine, if we can get some hotel development, all of those are retail demand drivers. And retail usually comes last. Retail follows the rooftops, it follows this other development, but if it shows up in the town, we can certainly see demand for new retail development. And I apologize for this, if you can't see the screen again, happy to share these slides later, but on the industrial demand side, so industrial employment side, over the next 5 years, what we did was we studied the Phoenix metro area as a whole, and then we honed in on the Southeast Valley. And so we are basically saying, here is our Southeast Valley demand model. What could we try to capture from a business that might go into the Southeast Valley, like a Queen Creek or into Mesa or Apache Junction, and can we recruit them over to Superior? So that's the basis for the demand model. So over the next 5 years, there's expected demand of 18 million square feet of new industrial space over the next 5 years just in the Southeast Valley. Now, as I said before, that big box, the larger scale, is about 2/3 of that demand. So for Superior's opportunity, we see about 5 million square feet. 5 million square feet will be coming to the Southeast Valley in that small scale flex space and in that mid-size 20,000 to 100,000 square foot building. So those are the two that we really are focused on. The big box sector, again, there's a lot of demand coming. There's also a lot of excess supply right now. So about half of the demand for big box already exists and will be absorbed over the next 5 years, and then we'll see some development there. The industrial outdoor storage, again, that's been structurally tight for a long time. There's a large demand for it. Phoenix has seen really high rent growth in the industrial outdoor storage space because not a lot has been developed, and there's really high occupancy there. And then again, as I mentioned, we'll show you the retail demand model there. Just some quick examples visually on the small flex industrial space. About half of flex industrial space in the Southeast Valley has a secured yard behind it. So businesses that are parking their vehicles or other equipment in a secured yard. There's also some indoor warehouse space and indoor office space. And you can see there's different types of design there. Some look more like office buildings and have more office space, but typically they have some warehousing space in the back, and then again, half of it has these outdoor, security guards to them. So a lot of these spaces too, some of the new ones that have been built, they can be split into different, these buildings range in size from about 5,000 square feet up to 16,000 square feet, and then they can be subdivided within the building for smaller businesses. And we did a tenant search of flex industrial users. It really runs the gamut. Our target occupations are really those in the construction industry, so those general contractors, or plumbers, electricians, specialty trades, wholesalers, small manufacturers. We saw plenty of those, and really there's, we saw lots of different, services, automotive services. We even saw, photography studios being used. We saw them being used as specialty fitness centers. So really it's a very versatile space that a lot of small businesses like to utilize, and small businesses really drive our economy. In Maricopa County, about 84% of all businesses are small businesses, so those with less than 20 employees. So that really drives that space. We see a demand for that flex industrial space over the next 5 years is anywhere from 432,000 up to 900,000 square feet, depending on how you look at the levers there. We took out, there is some pent-up demand too. So long-term vacancy rate for flex industrial is about 7% vacancy, and we're running well below that. So there's some pent-up demand right now for more flex industrial space. There is some under construction in Southeast Valley, so it does eat into that. But again, net, at a minimum, we see over the next 5 years demand for another 432,000 square feet of this flex industrial, this small scale flex industrial space. This mid and shallow bay is what we were talking about before. So starting at 20,000 square feet up to 100,000 square feet. There's a couple of examples, again, in the Southeast Valley. So you see the larger footprints there, the larger building sizes. Again, similar, larger tenants there. Some more, distribution type of tenants there. And this category, we are projecting demand for about 4.5 million square feet in this category. So those two combined, 4.5 million in the mid and shallow bay plus the flex industrial gets us to that 5 million square feet demand over the next 5 years. Again, this is for Southeast Valley, but this is our market potential for Superior of who the town would be looking to attract, who they would be marketing to see if there's space here for a business park or a spot of land around the airport. I mentioned this before, we just can kind of gloss over this, but we do have a lot of big box demand. That category alone has more than doubled in inventory over just the last 5 years. So if you go into the East Valley, you see that around the Phoenix Mesa Gateway area. Lots of new big box development happening, and excess supply right now, but still a lot of strong demand, and that will absorb over time. You'll see as we get into the actual developable parcels that it's really hard to find a big enough site for a big user like that. And so that's why our focus is on the small and mid-size in that employment area. And then here's a couple of quick examples of some industrial outdoor storage. You see, again, a paved or a gravel lot that's fenced in and secured. These do usually come with some buildings with some office space as well for those businesses that are operating these. But there is going to be some short-term and medium-term demand for heavy equipment. You can imagine. I know Resolution Copper, has their own land for their own machinery and their own vehicles, but contractor activity is going to ramp up over the next 3 to 10 years. So there could be demand for some space that's like this, that's just storing heavy equipment or vehicles or things like that, and there's quite a bit of demand for it. Now on the retail demand, we took we looked at every possible demand driver for retail. The biggest thing is going to be if and when the town of Superior attracts new residential development. I know there's been some proposals for RV parks and park models and things like that. The school district is making 40 acres available that would be ideal for single-family residential development. There's also a piece of land on the airport exchange that's contiguous, that's just right neighboring that school district property of about 25, 26 acres of developable area that would again be ideal for residential development. Also hoping for some multifamily, maybe some new apartments in the town, driven again by the demand of new employment of residential copper and also this employment area. So what we did is we basically gave it the max build out of if there were about 900 new households that came into the town of Superior through that new residential development, bringing their disposable income and spending money in the town. This is the demand model in terms of new grocery spend, new non-grocery but local retail spend, the spend at restaurant and bars, and then some demand for regional serving retail that may or may not be able to be attracted to Superior, but this is what the residential demand model says is, and I apologize, I should have brought some glasses to see my own slides, but we've got, those new households would generate about $20 million annually in retail spend. That's enough to support over 40,000 square foot of retail. Now, you add in some daytime employees of the new employment that's coming in, both Resolution Copper and also to this airport employment district. That daytime employee that would come in, buy gas, buy lunch, that's enough to support another 15,000 square feet. And if we can get some hotel development, which I already personally know there's demands today for a new hotel and potentially more than one. Those new hotel visitors, the overnight stayers that spend, they spend quite a bit of money each day as they're visiting in restaurants for entertainment, for shopping, could support up to another 20,000 square feet of retail. So all combined, if we can get all of this development to come, the new residential development, we can get some hotels, we can get the employment to come in, there is demand for up to 80,000 square feet of new commercial and retail development that the town could potentially capture. So on a land use basis, we want to be preserving about 15 to 20 acres of our airport employment area for the potential to attract that retail and have a place for them to go. And you'll see that in these alternatives that we've allocated areas to maintain that commercial area, the rest of it going to these employment areas and some residential. So just a quick recap, looking across all the categories, we see on the small scale flex industrial, a very strong fit for Superior, up to 500,000 square feet or more of demand over the next 5 years. Right now, vacancy is very low, so the supply position there is very tight. On that mid-scale, 20,000 to 100,000 square foot buildings, another 4.5 million square feet of demand. Also a very strong fit for the airport areas that we've identified. Big box is the only thing that we don't see as a very strong fit for the airport area. So not getting those super large type of industrial buildings, more on the small and mid scale. Industrial outdoor storage we do also think is a strong fit, especially when we look at some of the existing enterprises that are already north of the 60, maybe a compatible neighbor to some of the existing business that's already going on there, and that's back behind the freeway frontage. And then retail, again, a very strong fit. It will be probably in a later phase as we get this other development to come in, but another strong fit, especially if we get these demand drivers to come in. And then I'll turn it back to Chris for some of the airports and airport development and the alternatives.
Thank you. as I mentioned earlier, we performed and developed our alternatives based on industry research, best practices, and peer airport comparisons. When I mentioned that we looked at airports in Texas, Utah, California, and the state of Washington, one airport really stood out and was very similar to Superior, and that's actually in Upland, California. It's Cable Airport. It's a unique airport. It is about 7 miles from Ontario International. It's actually privately owned. It's one of 8 airports actually in the country that is privately owned. It's in the NIPIUS. It's part of the National Plan of Integrated Airports. So it's federally funded, so it does receive federal funds. But when you see the picture here, you're going to see the exact same runway alignment, very similar plots of land, and very similar development potential. So what you see here is Cable Airport. This is the exact, so north is in this area, west is over here, east is over here. It is bound by the Cucamonga Channel. It is a river that for flow off Mount Baldy, there are roadways along here. Here you have landside access off of this area, but you will see how over here, this area is a business park, non-aeronautical development. Some of the most valuable land at an airport fronts, it has access to the airfield. So you'll see hangars along this taxiway. You have a fuel farm. You have a restaurant, and then departure ends over here. And then you have more hangars. You have a big box retail store over here. And then you have also in this quadrant over here, you have more hangars for base aircraft. So looking at that, we were able to take a look at the current layout at Superior and apply many of those land uses and development potential to the existing configuration at Superior Municipal. So what you see here is, and apologize, I think again we can provide all these layouts for everyone to see in greater detail. But what you see here is you have the US 60 right here. You have the property boundary, all the airport property boundary as it currently sits, all throughout here. You have key airport geometrics. You have what's called a runway protection zone right here, and right over here. You've got washes, access roads, trail, and several other features. Once you get off property, when I say off property, off airport property, we're showing a railroad, a mine, and subsequent uses. And so with that, we also are showing the current runway, unpaved, full length, full width. Now, as we began to develop our alternatives, what we wanted to take a look at is, again, based upon cable, we wanted to look at operational considerations, FAA compatibility constraints, transportation access, operations, based aircraft, some of the uses that are already there. We want to make sure we incorporate those existing uses into the developed alternatives. We also took a look at the market demand and then the long-term development opportunities at the airport. And so what you see here is the runway length is the same. It is unpaved. We have aeronautical development along here. We have, in addition, on the other side of the airport. And then, again, fronting the future taxiway, there's also it's in that gold area. You have an access road along there, and then you'll see a relocated road along the existing or proposed property boundary. And so one of the major differences between what's out with what the current situation with the airport is you saw that the property boundary went all the way across US 60 and down and around. So one of the key things is that this alternative that we are recommending a new property boundary, and that property boundary is the new property boundary is being recommended because of grant assurances. So because of some grants from the state, there are revenue restrictions at airports, and so with all revenue generated at an airport has to stay at an airport. So by changing the property boundary, you can then use revenue generated in this employment center, this over here, that can go straight to the town. So our new property boundary is more realistic to airport operations. So you'll see that it abuts 60, comes down around here, along aeronautical uses, around the RPZ, back up, and over there, and then you still have the RPZs over here.
Chris, if I may point out something as we're viewing all these maps, something for the council to consider is all these green areas are essentially unusable land due to topography. So if you're looking at this map, a vast chunk of this land is not going to be usable for anything. It's all open space.
Yes.
So we're going to have limited paths, and we have to make the most of it. I just wanted to make the point when we're looking at the map. Everything green, considered as a no development area.
So what we see here is strong market opportunities for small and mid-scale industrial, outdoor storage, commercial uses, uses that support employees, visitors, and we do. So the other thing I do want to point out is, so from an airport's perspective, these trapezoid shapes right here and right here, there is guidance. There's federal guidance as to what can be used in that area, and essentially the RPZs, runway projection zones, must be free and clear of all objects, any roads transitioning through them, and it's designed as a safety area for aircraft for undershoots and overruns. So when we look at the next slide, or the next alternative, it does look a little bit different. And one of the things that we have done is we have shortened the runway. As you can see, we have brought this RPZ in so that the US 60 does not transgress it, along with one of the access roads. Excuse me. We also have aeronautical development here on the north side and south side. And again, it's kind of similar use and similar development to cable, where all the aeronautical development is fronting the taxiway, and then you have a good portion of non-aeronautical development that could be used for office space, commercial use. And with this option, you also have a vertiport. So AAM is a future, it is future. AAM is autonomous aircraft, electrified aircraft, drones. So Amazon is beginning to deliver packages now via drones. It can also be transport passengers, or employees. So there are. It is an emerging technology, and again, this is planning way for the future. But again, if we don't plan for something now, in the future, you're going to be behind.
And I just want to add to the vertiports and airport development. The state of Arizona has put out $1 million investment fund to attract the research and development for the vertiports and these types of aeronautic these vehicles, autonomous air taxis. And we were actually in a meeting once where they were like, oh, the Superior Airport might be great to be part of that research and development. So this is one of those opportunities that we need to plan for it so we can maybe participate in the state's investment.
And that's a great point, because there are also several manufacturers that are just starting to get into this technology. There are manufacturers that you have to build these aircraft, you have to get them certified. The airspace around Superior Municipal is very ideal for research and development technology, and manufacturers exactly for this technology. The next alternative, again, from an airport's perspective, we do have the same. We have reduced the runway length. Both RPZ, this RPZ again is in the same position. The property boundary has been reduced, but what we have here is on the north side. This is all commercial. So you have an employment district here that fronts the 60, and then you also have you also have a commercial use. So that whole entire area, is available. It's showing as available for development, non-aeronautical development, and it can create a front door to the airport. You can do a lot of different things up in that area, and then what we're showing on the south side is all your aeronautical developments where you have AAM helipads are relocated in a similar area. One of the key things about airport development is you want to have similar uses, similar types of aircraft around each other. You don't want to mix rotorcraft with fixed wing. You don't want to mix fast movers with slow private aircraft. You want to keep similar uses around each other, just from a safety perspective.
Is it too early to ask a question?
I'm fine. We can keep it open. Where are we doing time-wise?
Okay.
We're getting close.
Okay. Number one, the runway protection zone on the northeast corner, you basically used up all of the good runway that we have. On the southwest corner, we have a 3.5 degree slope downhill, which the FAA does not like, and that would have to be corrected for. And how many feet of runway would we actually have left?
So in this model, I believe it is 2,200.
So do you know the restrictions now we would have on aircraft coming into Superior? Basically, you're talking about single engine land aircraft. So anything bigger, I doubt seriously on a dirt runway that has a slope of 3.5 degrees, you're not gonna have a Queen Air or King Air be able to take off out of there, because there's just not enough room.
Correct. The critical aircraft for that was identified in the master plan, you know, it is an A1 small, and so that does operate within within that runway length. But from a future King Air perspective, one of the key things is that the current runway is not paved. And so, you know, when we look at the future, that runway for a King Air, for someone to bring in a King Air, it would have to be paved. Nobody's going to bring in a King Air and have that. But one of the things as part of this study is that, and I'll get into this in the next steps, is that when we move into the next step of getting a recommended development plan, there are bits and you can select one alternative, components of an alternative, so that a recommended development plan moves forward as part of this study. So, you know, very, very good points for sure. So when we look at AAM, again, we're looking at potential manufacturing. We're looking at commercial uses, employment centers on that north side. I want to turn this back over to Dan.
Let's see what's going to be possible for me to read, but this is basically looking at all the alternatives, taking each parcel and the acreage and what it could produce in terms of square footage. So you can see side by side as you go from one alternative to the other, kind of some of the shifts that happen across each alternative. So I'll kind of toggle up back to the maps real quick, so that might be easier. But red basically means employment, so that flex industrial, mid-sized industrial, flex office, things like that, business parks would be these red areas here. Also up here, up above, behind there. Commercial is designated as purple here, so this kind of corridor, freeway, highway frontage would be your main commercial corridor. Now, allowable use in the employment areas would also be commercial, so you could see some freestanding pads or something like that, if it's an attractive site right on the front of the 60s, so that would be an allowable use there as well. In the larger map was, the residential piece was down here that I mentioned, that's over by the school. But that's kind of just to give you a sense. And then, yellow is aeronautical type use, the hangar space, things that would be used for on-airport, and then this could also be used for employment down here as well. So you'll maybe be able to see it a little bit better as you, and this is kind of a straight commercial piece down here. But as you go to alternative 2, this area that was RPZ would then could also be a commercial pad area. So you increase your commercial land area there on this alternative. You lose a little bit of employment area because there was a little bit more employment here. This becomes, because you're preserving land for potential future vertiport, more aeronautical. So the aeronautical acreage on alternative 2 increases. Employment area slightly decreases, but we're still talking about all these other areas unaffected that can attract that employment area. And then as you get to alternative 3, again, we're just kind of swapping aeronautical that was up here to down here, and the non-aeronautical that was down here up here. So very slight change in acreage. I think it's off by 1 or 2 acreage less of employment. You maintain that additional commercial space up there. So really, you know, the bulk of the acreage change, it's really stays pretty consistent through each alternative. We're maintaining what we had suggested, you know, we're maintaining at least 25 acres, I think, across all these alternatives for commercial development. Again, you could have additional commercial up in the employment areas, and the employment areas, if my memory, I'm gonna have to just walk over there, but we've got like basically 80 to 85 acres of developable employment areas. We're talking, that means we're talking about like 800,000 to 900,000 square feet of actual building, that could go on that, you know, up to 100,000 square feet of commercial, and then we've still got our aeronautical areas and our residential areas. So those are you can review those tables, but that's kind of the trade-offs that we're making in terms of how we allocate the land uses, and the parcels there.
Can I ask one more question?
I would like to highlight for the audience that may not be able to read that, we're talking a grand total of 200 acres total for the entire 546 acres that's actually developable. So we do not have, a lot of this land is going to be open space, green space. So we're going to have to be very strategic with who we bring in, because we aren't going to have a limitless options.
Yeah, and I can maybe pull that point in, this area here is about 25 acres. You know, up here is about 15 acres, you know, about 10 acres. So classic size for a business park or maybe a mid-sized user. But yeah, it does definitely break up. We don't have large areas of contiguous space. This commercial corridor here, you know, about 12 to 15 acres. So that's how those distinct parcels kind of break down.
Can I ask a question, please?
Sure.
If you move the commercial area to the northeast of the airport and then the aviation park to the southeast of the airport, what happens to our $500,000 helipads?
I think Chris had mentioned, I mean, I think in these two alternatives, the helipads are indicated up here. What Chris had indicated before was if you were to do a vertiport, it would be ideal to relocate the helipads down towards the vertiport. Again, you know, also think in terms of just how long this plan can take to develop. But yes, I think in this alternative 3, you would be relocating the heliports from up here by the highway down here, if I'm not mistaken.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah, we just put in those we just spent $500,000 of hard-earned government money to have those built, and we had them up now for a year and a half. So
About 2 years. We're getting close to time, so I want to make sure we finish the presentation. And the other thing, like these plans are always very exciting and gets everyone kind of like it's going to happen tomorrow. And there's a good chance that the helipads wouldn't move for another 30 years technically. When you really stop and think about that, and technology's changing. So I want everyone to be thinking about the fact that yes, this council is going to be responsible for setting a direction and set future plans, because that will indicate where we put other infrastructure, how we start attracting businesses. This is not like all of this is going to happen next year. And we are seeing some indications of a hotel wanting to be built and other things, but that's where we're going to get into other agreements. If we don't set a plan and set some kind of mapping, we won't get anything done. So we have to be strategic, and glad everybody's here. No decisions are going to get made tonight. And Danny, I'm going to let you finish.
Okay, no, I'm going to turn this over to Chris, but when we come back for the June work session, and we will be requesting a vote in the next council meeting to pick a preferred alternative, but at the next work session, we will also bring some rough order of magnitude infrastructure costs of each alternative, so you can take that into consideration.
Thank you. So from a next steps perspective, what we're going to be doing is we're going to go back and incorporate everybody's feedback into the alternatives. We want to make sure we address, you know, all comments received. From there, we also plan on refining those alternatives to develop a preferred development concept that will be moving forward. We were also going to come back in, I believe it's June 15th, or at a future meeting to present the preferred development concepts. We're also going to be developing planning level, rough order of magnitude cost estimates for proposed developments. We're going to draft. We're also going to support these preferred development concepts with recommended zoning framework for development, so that the airport is fully protected, both from a fixed wing and rotorcraft perspective. And then we will advance the final concept and the report for presentation.
So a couple quick comments. So if you do have comments from the council or from anyone else, email them to me. I will pass them on. A comment about the final report is these reports generally have all of the alternatives listed in the report and then a preferred alternative. Doesn't mean we have to build the preferred alternative. All of these ideas that we're capturing in this report could be pulled out by future councils and said, no, we don't like this big picture. We want this little piece, which we have done from numerous reports that have been generated over the years. So, but all this planning, that greater document will have gems of ideas that will allow future councils to make some really solid decisions.
Basically, it's a foundation setting, and if we don't have a plan, it makes it very easy for the town to kind of get taken advantage of in a way, because we won't have a land use plan. And I know for one, well, this recommendation for storage yards is recommended and kind of like a best use. I know some of our advisors are saying that's not going to create the jobs and economic diversity that we want. So we're going to have to balance that out. It goes back to the housing conversation. RV parks are great, but we want more than that. We want diversified housing. So we've got a lot of fun stuff to go through. Council, any questions or comments at this time before we close out?
Thanks for the presentation.
Thank you.
This is a very exciting presentation. Probably the first time we've had something like this in probably our 50-year history of being a town. So thank you. We appreciate you all, and I know we have lots more engagement to have. At this time, we have a motion to adjourn the work session.
So moved.
There's a motion to adjourn the work session by Councilmember Byrd.
Second.
Councilmember Tomlin, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, and we will adjourn until 7 o'clock, and we will do our regular meeting. And we do have lots of good stuff, so everybody please stick around. Lots of good news to